And we are live on Facebook. And we are now live on YouTube. Welcome, everybody. This is the November 27th edition of the Weekly Bullet. It is a news and conversation program produced by the Second Amendment Foundation. Today, we're short, as you can see, we are short one guest. We're going to hopefully have him logging in just a second, but I'm going to go ahead and start with the guy right below me, Charlie Cook. He is riding shotgun with Charlie, both the video series and the podcast. And he is Charlie's Gungrams. He's everywhere. Charlie, you want to introduce yourself?
With an intro like that, I should probably get a copy of that to give it to my parole officer. My name is Charlie Cook. I'm in Massachusetts. I'm trying to just get to the point where I'm known by Charlie, like one name, like Bono, like Elvis, like Prince. And I interview people in the car. All right, let's not go that far. I interview people in the cars. We drive around and talk about gun issues and gun stuff. And I've filmed in 25 or 26 states. I've been doing the show for the last couple of years. I do put the audio out as a podcast and the video out as video on YouTube and on GunStreamer and on the OpsLens app.
Okay. There go my dogs. We're going to go ahead and we'll move over to our guest tonight, attorney Adam Kraut. Adam is I'm struggling to remember, Adam, your title, but you are I'm going to say the lead attorney for the Firearms Policy Coalition. Is that, or a strategist, or?
I'm the director of legal strategy. I was told I needed a title, so that's what ultimately my title became. I would have been just fine with Adam Kraut, but I'm the director of legal strategy. I guess you could call that lead attorney, if you wanted, but it is the director of legal strategy. So I am the king of strategery.
Okay, all right. Well, and I'm sorry about the dogs. We've had furnace problems. Thanksgiving Day we developed furnace problems, and the furnace guy chose now to show up, and so my wife is dealing with dogs and trying to deal with furnace guy, and here I am on the air. It's
perfect timing.
Yeah,
I've got 4 dogs, so I know all about that.
Yeah, you get to see the sausage being made. So, Adam, I want to get started with you've, as far as Firearms Policy Coalition, you guys, along with Second Amendment Foundation, have filed a ton of lawsuits in the past month. And I know at least on the Second Amendment Foundation there's more on the way. I would assume there's more on the way from you guys as well. But together, there are a few lawsuits I want to talk about. The first one, if I could, is the Louisiana suit that is suing over the right of 18 to 21-year-olds to be able to purchase firearms. Right now, Louisiana law says they can't, and you guys have took them to court. Could you give us kind of an overview on that case?
Yeah, so a couple of things just to clarify here. So that one is a challenge to the federal prohibition on individuals between 18 and 20 years old from being able to purchase from a federal firearms licensee. So we're challenging the federal law that bans that and actually makes it a crime for the licensee to do the transfer. And obviously the idea behind it is that if we look, and this is a bigger part of our litigation strategy and mindset, if you look to the test that was spelled out in Heller, that being text of the Second Amendment as informed by history and tradition, it's a theme you'll notice throughout all of our lawsuits, that there's nothing that supports this idea that those between 18 and 20 are somehow categorically barred from being able to purchase a handgun, from a dealer. And a lot of times there are instances in the state law that allows for individuals that are in that group that can't go to a dealer to purchase a handgun, but they're able to obtain them through some other means. Some states allow private party purchases. Other states allow, like Pennsylvania, for instance, certain familial transactions, so gifts from parent to child, things like that. So there are ways for individuals in some states who are in that subset to be able to obtain a handgun, but it requires another willing party, and of course in accordance with state law. And then you have states like, for instance, California, where just forget about it.
All right. Charlie, I'm trying to get. Oh, there he is. There's Mike.
Hey.
Everybody, that's Mike Piwowarski. He is Arms Room Radio. He's going to be one of our commentators today. Adam, if I could, and I apologize, I've been trying to get Mike connected
No
here.
problem.
What are some other, I know you folks have joined with us in the New York City lawsuit against the carry restrictions there. What are some other lawsuits that you think are key, and I'd like you just to keep it the ones with the Second Amendment Foundation. We're going to go off next into the ones just you guys are doing.
Sure. So, I mean, to that point, a lot of the litigation that you see SAF and FPC working on together are ideas and things that FPC have been working on for some time. The carry cases are obviously a very big, important one. So you see those currently in New York City, New Jersey. There is the 18 to 20 Lara case in Pennsylvania about the carry of handguns. You're going to see another case in Pennsylvania shortly. So the carry cases, the 18 to 20 challenge on the federal ban. You going to see some other cases that I'm not sure we're quite ready to tell you what we're doing outright about, but there are a number of cases with SAF that are going to challenge a lot of these restrictions around the country in different different circuits ultimately, but in a bunch of different states, with the idea of driving litigation up to the circuit courts to have them weigh in and ultimately on to the Supreme Court to hopefully get a either favorable decision on the merits or have the Supreme Court kind of look at the test and say that the lower courts have been applying it wrong, and you need not look further than Justice Thomas's dissent in a number of different things, sometimes joined by Alito, where they've said, you guys are doing this wrong. Stop it.
Sure. And we had our very first guest on our very first show of the Weekly Bullet was Alan Gottlieb, and and I'm wondering if it's the same for the Firearms Policy Coalition. He said, as far as on the SAF side, that a lot of these lawsuits were filed with the intention of, please just rule against us and do it quickly so we can move on, because you've already done that before. Is that the same strategy that you're doing with some of your lawsuits over there at Firearms Policy Coalition?
In a lot of ways, the answer to that question is yes, particularly because there isn't exactly a lot of new things that are being litigated as far as a new novel concept that hasn't already been litigated on the issue in that circuit. For instance, the carry issues in New Jersey as far as the right to a license. The lawsuit isn't exactly saying that you have a right to the license, but if you look at it under circuit precedent, it's likely that the district court's going to go and apply Drake to that case and say, well, Third Circuit's already said no. So yes, the answer is trying to move things as quickly and efficiently as possible and not necessarily be bogged down in relitigating an issue that the circuit has already said this is the answer to, and the district court is bound to that answer.
All right. So let's go ahead and move on to the lawsuits that you guys are either going alone on or maybe are just not partnering with SAF on. I know there is and I apologize, I do not know the specific case, but I know you've got one in California that you're doing on your own. What else am I missing?
Well, we recently, last week, filed a new lawsuit against the city of Philadelphia in relation to the closure of the gun permit unit. That was one that the city of Philadelphia, I believe it was on Wednesday night, I saw a message saying that the gun permit unit shut down. Friday night we filed the lawsuit, and Monday morning we filed a TRO. And part of the reason we were able to do that is because over the last 2 years or so, FPC has been working rather quietly on assembling its own in-house litigation and constitutional research team, and that has allowed us to essentially be very agile, very able to really just respond to issues that we decide are worth responding to on a moment's notice. And that's how we were able to find plaintiffs, get plaintiffs on board, draft a complaint, file the complaint, and have a TRO to follow, all within a period of a week. So that's one that was done recently. There might be a few others in that same general issue area, but we'll see. We're kind of evaluating a few things as of right now.
Okay, I'm going to bring in some commentary off social media, and this I apologize to everybody watching on YouTube because I have to copy and paste the comments from YouTube to Facebook, and it takes a few minutes for them to show up. But off of YouTube, Midnight Range says, Adam, what's going on with PA 2957? That is crazy, bro. And do we need militias to fight for cure her? Wolf's militia? I don't know about that, but PA 2957, is that the Philadelphia suit?
No, I believe that is a House bill that's out there that is essentially, I haven't reviewed it, but essentially my understanding was it kind of created this state defense force, and it restricted a lot of firearms related issues to only being accessible to individuals that were part of that. To answer the question, I don't think that that's actually going to go anywhere. We see crazy legislation proposed all the time in Pennsylvania. As of right now, the General Assembly is still held by the Republicans. So I think as far as seeing that actually either A, make it out of committee and onto the floor, or pass the floor to the governor's desk is minimal at best. But obviously, with that being said, I always encourage people to be part of the civic process. So, contact your representative and tell them to vote no against it.
All right. Got some more comments coming in, mostly just hi and hey, everybody that's checking in. I don't have time to put you all up because we've only got a couple more minutes with Adam. Adam, let me go ahead and open up to my co-hosts here. They're here for a reason. Charlie or Mike, do you want anything you want to ask Adam?
I'll let Charlie go first since he was on time.
Thanks, Mike. I don't know if I have any questions. I'm just taking it all in. Sometimes I fail to keep up with all the legal things that are going on. And sometimes the legal talk is over my head like a TRO, and I'm just like, okay, just sit and go along for the ride, and try to nod at appropriate places. But you guys do some great work, and I know the FPC is out there along with everybody else, and just keep doing what you're doing, man. You guys know what you're doing. You got an awesome beard, and that's all I got.
Thank you. So I guess a couple things real quick. So a TRO is a temporary restraining order. I didn't think to actually kind of tell everybody what that is. Thank you for the compliment on the beard. This has been started, its current form anyway, since the beginning of COVID. I actually trimmed it back for when we went to the California assault weapons case, the preliminary injunction. So it was a little more wild before that. But so thank you.
I'm a little envious. I can't get a very thick beard going, so.
It has its pros and its cons.
Well, as my dogs interrupt, Adam, we are right up at the time I told you I'd let you go. Thank you so much for joining us today, and I would be really derelict in my duty if I didn't ask if somebody's interested in what the Firearms Policy Coalition is doing, or if they want to become a member, how do they do that?
Sure. So the easiest way is to follow us on social media. We're extremely active there. If you head on over to Instagram or Twitter, it would be at Gun Policy. I think it's the same on Facebook, but if you just search Firearms Policy Coalition on Facebook, if you go to firearmspolicy.org, there's a join and or donate tab if you're interested in funding the work. We never beg for donations. We always just say, hey, if you like what we're doing and you want to pitch in, awesome. If not, hopefully we'll impress you at some point in the future and you can join us in the journey. So that would be how you catch up with us.
Very cool. Well, again, Adam, thank you for joining us today, man.
Hey, thank you so much for having me, and hopefully we can do it again sometime.
Yes, sir. It's a guarantee.
Have a good one, guys.
You bet. All right, folks. We're going to go ahead and we're going to start the next part of the show. And unlike last week, we're out right on time. Last week we had a little bit of an issue getting out of the first part of the show at the 15-minute mark. Mike, I'm going to have you... I already gave Charlie the chance at the beginning of the show, and because of some technical difficulties, we had to wait to get you on, but let everybody know who you are and what you do and where they can find your stuff.
Yeah, thanks. And again, apologize for that. Just, what worked on the computer last night, of course, didn't work on the computer this morning, so had to do the standard, reboot, unplug, try 3 times. Oh, look, now it works. I did nothing different. So that just had to deal with that this morning. Probably too much turkey on the computer is what it was. But, I am a host of Arms Room Radio. I have 2 co-hosts with me there as well. I want to make sure I say that because they always say I forget to mention them. So I want to say hi to Eric and Eric's not even on the program with me. Earl and Kevin. So I want to make sure I say hi to them. Arms Room Radio is a weekly program. We air Saturdays 3 to 5 Eastern time is live. You can catch every line at any place you can find a podcast. You can find us, or in the somewhere between 25 and 50 cities a week. We air at actual radio stations. Got into it. We've been in it 6.5 years now, I think, and it's just continuing to steamroll. We get asked to do the same things that the host and co-host here are doing. To bring our knowledge and experience, and so the Second Amendment community. And I'm grateful to be here, and thank you for the invite, Paul.
Absolutely. So this part of the show is supposed to be about just us discussing the news topics of the week, and this week leading up to Thanksgiving, things were kind of quiet. On my personal front, I did get to the article hasn't been released yet, but it'll be released on Monday. I got to do a sit-down interview, telephone interview, with Lauren Boebert, the the congressperson-elect out of the 3rd District of Colorado. And that was what an amazing woman. She's a firecracker. And just awesome talk with her. After a blizzard of lawsuits that had been filed over the past 2 weeks. Now they've kind of slowed down a little bit. I think only 1 or 2 lawsuits have been filed this week. What have you guys noticed in the news that you guys want to talk about?
Go ahead.
Thank you, Charlie. And hey, I just want to say, Charlie, I'm ready to go. I didn't know where we were going from here, so if you're ready.
Yeah, thanks, Paul, man. Let's go.
Thank you, Charlie. Charlie has invited me. I want to say that to go with him. We haven't had the time to get together yet, so I'm ready though. Just in case it happens to be today, I'm ready. The thing I talked about, we talked about on the program last week or this past weekend, and I'm curious to hear what you guys do. We're all in different parts of the country. In Florida, we've gotten, I guess spoiled. We got a good governor, very, pro conservative, pro gun rights, pro just let's get over this nonsense with COVID. Also, the gun shows. I was talking to people around the country, and I saw that in California it had gone a lawsuit, and I forget where else it was. Maybe in Texas. I think it was in Texas. And in fact, it was Dallas or Houston where they canceled another major gun show. We haven't had that in Florida. The first, I think, month or two where we're all closed down for COVID, but they opened it back up and said it's retail, just like walking into, the ridiculousness. You can go into a Walmart, but I can't go to high school graduation or to church. But Florida, it's been considered a retail event, and gun shows are pretty much in full swing here. There's some smaller ones that are still having to deal with some of the local establishments or local venues that are a little afraid, but the big ones have been going strong. I'm curious, in your parts of the country, have you seen anything? Or gun shows still going? Because that's a big side of the gun business, of the Second Amendment business for mom and pop stores to stay in the profit margin.
Well, here in South Dakota, we get about 2 gun shows a year in my part of the state, and I always miss one of them because it happens as we're down for SHOT Show.
Yeah.
And as far as I know, it has not been canceled yet. It's still going to happen, but we're still a couple months away. Charlie, anything?
I haven't noticed. I haven't noticed that gun shows aren't happening. We don't have them very often. There's probably 4 places in Massachusetts where they do gun shows, and they happen maybe 3 times a year at each of those places. And I usually get a little flyer that says, "Hey, listen, get $1 off the entrance. If you bring in this little flyer." My attitude about gun shows is the exact same attitude about strip joints. I'm going to go in. There's going to be plenty of things that I want to put my hands on, and nothing I'm going home with. So I've stopped going to gun shows. I hate to say they all seem the same, but everything that I've seen in Massachusetts, there's somebody selling books, and there's the regular stores that are selling all the regular stuff that they have, and there's a lot of war memorabilia, and the guy selling the oh god, what are those holsters called? The little pockets, the thunderwear. The guys sell the thunderwear. It's kind of the same. And I go to these. I'm like, okay, this is more than I'd want to pay for it. So I'm not gonna buy anything.
I really hope there's not a live model of the thunderwear there. I really hope they don't.
I did buy the thunderwear at a gun show a long time ago. The only possible advantage is you can turn it around to any position in your body that you like. You don't have to wear it in the front.
Okay, I'll take your word on it.
Moving on.
Yes, Wayne Hutchinson, and I'm having problems these showing up on the air, so I'm just gonna have to read them. But Wayne Hutchinson says they had a gun show in Myrtle Beach on the 31st of October, and let's see here, what do we got in over on YouTube? And let's see, Clovertack says, "I spy with my little eye Charlie Cook." And
Clovertack.
And Gerald O'Brien says, "The only honest broker we have is Alan Gottlieb." I'll second that one. He's an awesome boss. If I could, I want to. We got one that I wanted to pull up earlier, but I cannot get him again to show up on screen. Val Taylor says, "I was told about the gun tax threat. Lots of grumbling about Harris and others organizing hit squads to take out gun owners and enthusiasts. Soros and a few other anti-gun billionaires are paying billions to mercenaries to be brought in by executive order. Time for all good men to be ready. Antifa is already making threats against President Trump." Yada, yada, yada. I was with you until mercenaries. I don't think that's happening. Being ready, being active politically, helping be active in the courts, 100%. But guys, it's not time to go off the deep end. I don't know. That's what I got on that one.
Well, Paul, let me say this. I don't think we're looking at mercenaries. I mean, we could probably twist the words enough to. They're going to pay people to ignore the Constitution and go after your firearms, but those are probably going to be, those few that are sitting there now that don't think much of their oath, that are already doing it under red flag laws, or in some states where they've passed these unconstitutional laws and they're taking it. Again, I don't think the word mercenary is right, but government-sponsored revocation or retrieval of your firearm. I don't think there's any question. I mean, Harris has already said she's going to do it. Biden said he's going to appoint, Beto O'Rourke the gun czar, and they're coming. They're coming for your AR-14s. They're coming for him. I don't think there's anything. And I also want to say, don't forget the fight's not over. There's a couple of great court cases going on today and this weekend about fraudulent voting. So just because the media is telling you this is over doesn't mean this is over.
Oh, absolutely. It's not over until the college.
The German bomb Pearl Harbor.
Yeah. It's not over until the Electoral College votes, and that's not for another couple weeks. So, things don't look good for the home team right now, but I'm not going to throw in the towel. I'm right with you there. So if we could, Oh, go ahead, Charlie.
Completely. Like I was, the $200 tax. It's ridiculous. It's really just a way to make sure that people who can afford it, who have expendable incomes, can keep all the guns, which is certainly still some sort of class warfare. I put this on my Facebook page, and I mentioned it somewhere, I forget where. But so Obama had a bunch of czars, and Beto O'Rourke is going to be the assault weapon czar. I think it's kind of interesting that these two have adopted the Russian term for in some sort of overlord, and they're the same people that talked about having some Russian collusion, and then they adopt the language of the Russians. A little fishy to me.
Yeah,
absolutely. It is kind of ironic, isn't it?
I know. How come nobody's picking up on this except for me?
Right.
Yeah, and it's these. It's going to happen. I just, I don't know how. Now it seems like people are asking. I get those questions. I'm sure you guys are getting them all the time. Are they really going to do this? Are they really going to charge me $200 for every standard capacity magazine over 10 rounds? Yeah, where were you? Where were you the past year when this has been going on? When this has been going out there. Now, obviously, we had record turnout, and maybe people are just looking for clarification. Is it really going to happen? But yeah, they've told you this is what they ran on. It's really going to happen.
Higher taxes, a $200 tax for assault weapons and high-cap magazines. They're going to come door to door. This is what you. I don't want to say this is what you voted in because I know it wasn't us, but this is what got elected. And this is the platform they ran on, and there were still some people that had cranial rectal insertion that wanted to vote for this.
Absolutely.
It's frustrating as hell. We can't get people to write letters. We can't get people to come to rallies. And now we expect them to load up their magazines and do something else. You know what I mean? It's tiring. It's tiring.
Yeah, it is.
We do know there's a core of people that will respond. You know what the president last weekend said? What if I wanted 1 million people on the mall? I could have them there, and not asking for it. 200,000 people showed up. We know there's people out there that do that. We saw what happened in Virginia. 16,000 inside the perimeter, and they brought a guillotine with them just to remind the people there, the elected personnel, what can happen, and we don't need firearms to stop tyranny.
The guillotine's not an assault weapon, so it should be fine. No permit needed.
Yep.
Rhonda Zell just chimed in on Facebook and said, "Hey guys, hey Rhonda, it is great to have you watching."
Rhonda, what is happening, girl? I love Rhonda. She is a lot of fun to be with. You know what I love about her, Rhonda? Whenever I see her in Chicago, she always sets me straight. She really does.
Oh, okay. You can't drop a bomb like that and not.
So I went to Illinois this summer, and I was heading up to Milwaukee and I know it's in Wisconsin. I was doing some family stuff in Illinois, and I was going to Milwaukee to interview Argo J. So I messaged Rhonda, and I'm like, "Hey, do you want to come with me?" And she's like, "Let me get back to you." So she says to me later in the day, she's like, "Come on by. Here's my address. Come pick me up." So I'm excited to see her. I get out of the car, give her a hug, put her bag in the car, and she's like, "Okay, just drive." So we drive for 2 blocks, and she's like, "Don't ever come to my house and get out of my car and hug me in the street because people know that I'm going to be leaving. I'm like, I don't even think about this.
Oh.
So I got a lot of pro tips from the pro for that day when I was in Chicago and Milwaukee. So she's awesome. She rocks.
Very cool. Well, I do want to talk about, if we could, I had the amazing opportunity to speak with, on the telephone, for 30 minutes with Lauren Boebert for an interview for the Gun Mag, and that article will release on Monday. And I got to tell you, she is such a firecracker. She is, she's straight up what you see on the TV. I can tell you right now, from what you've seen on TV, what is in her campaign stuff, that's her. What I was in contact was the same thing as what she projects. And the big news, she had made news the day before. On Tuesday it came out that she was inquiring whether she could carry on the Capitol. And I'm not going to give everything away because the article is yet to come out on Monday. But the short answer is she's getting a whole lot of double talk, and the answer is a definite maybe. So
good,
very
good.
cool.
Yeah, I think I saw some of that, and we talked about it. I think briefly, Paul, you and I offline. That that's great. Wonderful, right?
Right. Well, and the way she explained it to me is she's 5'0", 100 pounds. And she plans on walking back and forth from the Capitol to the home she's going to have in Washington, D.C. And that's Washington, D.C., I believe she quoted a statistic is 138% higher violent crime rate in Washington, D.C. than in the rest of America. And so, yeah, she absolutely has to have a way to protect herself. She doesn't get Capitol police bodyguards. She's responsible for her own security. And one of the things that is definite is that members of Congress do not need a concealed carry permit in D.C. The only place where it is maybe a question is going on to the floor of the House.
And here's what I can see her doing, and this is why I have no problem with this. I have some problem with other Congress people that do the, it's okay for me, but not for thee kind of thing. We saw that over the past 2 or 3 years. She's not that person. She is going to, and that's the reason she's brought this out ahead of time. She's getting that prior approval to bring that in there. You don't think, and I know she's going to, within a couple of weeks of her having that concealed permit there and showing, hey, listen, look, I've taken this firearm in and out of this building how many times, and it's yet to jump out of my pocket and assault anybody. Why are we special? Why do we get to do this, yet the people that live here, every day, all year long, can't have these? That's going to be her. That's going to be her platform. That's listen, one, for person, and two, to make the point to get it allowed for everybody else. That's where she's going to go with this, and God bless her.
Absolutely.
I think that would be great. What I doing some research on it, what I found out is that a number of other politicians and lawmakers carry as well. So part of me is like, okay, if she does this, it's not a big deal. It shouldn't be a big deal, and everything should be fine. And if other members of Congress do this as well, it really, it should be a non-story is kind of where I'm thinking about it. And I think it's great that she's going to be doing this. And maybe it's a bigger deal because she's young, because she's female, because she open carries at her restaurant in Rifle, Colorado. But if other people are doing it, then she may crack corn. Who cares? What's the big deal? The stuff that you were just talking about, Mike, having her say, okay, I carried a gun. My gun's an inanimate object. I've been carrying it back and forth and in and out of these buildings, and it hasn't gone off. It hasn't had any problems. It hasn't committed any crime. Let's let more people carry in Washington, D.C. as well. Let's let the citizens of Washington, D.C. carry. And I absolutely love that idea. I think that's great.
I think that's where she's going with it, and that's like I said, I understand that others, like you mentioned, Charlie, carry it there, but you know what? It's time to band together and show people that the guns are not out committing crimes, and that they're used for personal protection, and everybody should be allowed to do it. So I think she might be the straw that broke the camel's back to get them all to say something.
That's cool. The story that I read also, it was from the AP News, so I'm sure there was a slant to it, but it did say something about armed Trump supporters, and to me that's just another way that the media gives us a little Jedi mind trick of Trump supporters are carrying guns and all this, you know. I mean, I can't take credit for this, and I use it as much as I can, but some people are brainwashed while other people just need a light rinse. And seeing stuff like this in print really helps the people that just need a light rinse.
Yeah, absolutely right. Absolutely right. I'm stealing that, by the way.
Perfect.
Couple more comments have come in on social media. Taxing a right allows only the wealthy to exercise that right. No compromise on the 2A. Todd Olson said that. I would agree with that wholeheartedly. I mean, I have to separate now. My opinion is Paul Lathrop, not as any part of the Second Amendment Foundation, is that you ought to be able to personally own and use anything from a Ruger 1022 to an F-22 Raptor. When the Second Amendment was conceived, private citizens owned cannons, private citizens owned warships, and the Second Amendment was made for repelling governments. Not just and the one mistake I think we're making is that we're saying, look, it's the Second Amendment is for the right to overthrow tyranny, and that is part of it, yes, but it's also for the right to overthrow invasion. If we wouldn't have had those privately owned cannons, if we wouldn't have had that powder, if we wouldn't have had those ships, we would all be saluting the Queen.
Yeah, I agree, and Paul. And you know, the flip side of that argument, when you hear people tell it, just for the benefit of the listener, is, well, but the military has that now, and they can repel invasion, so the citizen doesn't need it. And then I'll come back to you, Paul, where you just said, you know what, that's crap. Back in 1775, 1776, and go on from there, we had the same things, including, like you said, warships and cannons that our military had. Now, we didn't have the standing army up until we had to have the standing army then, and then again after the Second Continental Congress, we had when they brought in a standing army. But you know, I'm the same as you. I believe I should be able to go on Amazon and get me a 240 Bravo delivered to my front door. You know, that's how, you know, pro 2A. Let's go there. As long as I'm not a prohibited person, I should be a permitted person. I mean, be permitted to have, not get a permit, because then that goes back to taxing a right. You know, name one other constitutional right that I have to go pay a fee and get a card in my pocket to say it's okay to do it.
Right. Oh, I've long said if we would have had to go through the same permitting process for our First Amendment rights as we do our Second, we would have been at war.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Wayne Hutchinson asked, do you guys actually see LE showing up at people's homes and asking for their weapons without resistance? Everyone I know that are 2A are saying this isn't going to work like that. It's going to get nasty. What are your thoughts? If you guys don't mind, I want to take this one first. I want you, Wayne, to look back at Hurricane Rita in Louisiana. And after Hurricane went through, both Katrina and Rita went through, law enforcement in Louisiana went through and they took guns. They took them from grandmothers that were not a threat at all. They pushed grandma down, they got the gun, and they got out of there. It's on video. Go look it up on YouTube. Yes, I think if the government says we're going to come and take them, there are going to be law enforcement officers that will come and take them. It's happened before. Mike,
Good,
I'm going to throw to you next.
Oh, okay. I'll take it. Up by, I was going to let Charlie go up, because up by him in Massachusetts, there in Connecticut, remember we had the assault weapon ban go through after the SAFE Act and every place else hit over there after Sandy Hook. And you had to register your assault weapons in Connecticut. And they estimated something like 100,000, if I recall, in the state of Connecticut based on the trends that they saw on some 4473s and some numbers. They gave them the opportunity to register them. And I'm trying to pull these off the top of my head, but I believe the number that registered was less than 10%. And then the state police said, well, then we're going to go door to door and get, and none of that happened. Nobody went door to door, and none were turned in from what I recall. They had the option to register or turn in. Less than 10 registered, and no one turned in. So, you hear, are they going to come door to door? I don't know, maybe Connecticut didn't have the manpower. Maybe Connecticut thought better of. Maybe they got a call from the White House back then under the Obama White House and said, don't do it yet. I don't know. But, it's already there in places where it's legal to come get, and it hasn't happened. Do I see them going door to door? It's already happening. I think we started off the program with that.
Yeah. Charlie, your thoughts?
Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, I want to say, Mike, that I do remember seeing some articles in Connecticut of people that were turning in their high-cap magazines. I live in occupied territory. I live in Massachusetts. We can't have pre-90. We can have. Let me try this again. I live in Massachusetts. I live in occupied territory. We cannot have post-September 13th, 1994 high-cap magazines for anything. And they're like gold. It's almost as good as having ammo, as having a high-cap magazine, which is completely ridiculous because our license is a license to carry, and it allows us to have large-capacity rifles, shotguns, and handguns, but we can't have high-cap magazines. I guess I'm not concerned about them coming door to door. I am concerned about them coming into people's houses when they're not home and breaking in and stealing them. And I know it seems a little crazy, but that's a little bit of a concern. If they can't come here, if I don't answer the door, what are they going to do? You know what I mean? But I'm afraid, like, if they know we have something, and how do they find out if we have it? I'll tell you that in a second. But I'm afraid of them doing stuff like that instead of knocking on the door nicely and saying, "Hey, listen, we know that you have some firearms. We know that you have some high cap magazines, and we need to come in and take them." I can't take credit for this one. I have to give credit to Evan Knappen, who's a gun attorney in New Jersey. He says that legislation leads to registration, registration leads to confiscation, and confiscation leads to extermination. And I hate to say I love it, but it gets to the point and it rhymes and it flows off the tongue pretty well. And it lets you know that, people say, well, how can they come take your guns? Here's how. We have this. We have gun registration. Some people ask me all the time, do I have to register my guns? And this is where I feel like a complete wacko, because I tell them we don't have gun registration in Massachusetts. We have transfer registration, which feels like some weird Stockholm syndrome thing, where we don't register our guns. We register the transfer. So when I get a gun from a dealer, there's a paper trail for it. If I get a gun from another law-abiding background check passing citizen, there's a paper trail for it. Mike, if you moved up here, God forbid you walk under a ladder and you get 7 years of bad luck and you have to move to Massachusetts, you just have to get a license to have those guns. You don't have to let Massachusetts know you have them. But when you transfer one to me, then you start a paper trail for that thing. So I'm concerned about what the government knows and how long they keep track of the things that we have. And then knowing that those are the doors to go knock on.
Well, those 4473s are kept at the dealers for a minimum of 20 years, unless something comes up there. So that's where they would start. They'd go get those 4473s. Listen, you saw it in the movie Red Dawn. Remember the original movie Red Dawn? Go to the sports store, look at the 4473s, go find the guns. And if you don't have them, guess what they did? They didn't believe you. They took you into the town square. I would tell people, and this is what the attorney on my show, Kevin Maxwell, says, if it happens to be one of those unconstitutional orders to come get your guns, red flag order, or if they pass some law here in the future and they come to the door, make sure your weapons are in your safe. Everybody always keeps one or two out handy so that they're in control of for protection, but all your other stuff, make sure it's in your safe's bolted down, and when they come in, you lost the combination. Do not help them complete their task. If they want to go get another warrant to remove your safe and bring in a forklift because I forgot the combination and it's bolted to my foundation, then let them do it. Don't make their job easier for them.
A couple comments coming in on social media again. If the military is ordered to fire on its citizens who are rebelling, will they obey those orders or be like those back in the day with squatters in Central Park and say no? He continues, the officers in my city said they would all quit before confiscating anyone's weapon. There will be those that quit. There will be those that will not obey orders. But I can't stress enough, there have been enough. Look at Ruby Ridge. Look at Waco. Look at, again, Rita and Katrina. There will be enough officers that still follow orders, unconstitutional as they may be, that it's going, if the order's given, the order's going to be followed by somebody.
Did you guys watch that special on Netflix on Waco? Did you guys watch that back in the spring?
Yes.
I have not, no.
Yeah. Well, it is a lot freaking. And you watch it and you're like, holy crap, I can't believe this happened in the United States of America when I was alive. That's what I got. I'm like, holy crap, man, this is not good. There are people that followed instructions and they killed women and children as well as men to get into that compound. And when they had someone, I mean, I'm not sure how much was fictionalized on TV and TVized, but they had guys that moved in across the street to or down the road to keep an eye on what's going on. You're just like, holy crap, man, this is nuts.
Paul, you asked that. You started it off with the military willing to go there. I could tell you, it's my belief, having been in the military, either active duty or reserves for over 25 years, that the active duty branch, those guys that are sitting there at Fort Hood now and Fort Benning, Fort Knox, wherever it happens to be, if an order were ever to came down, and I believe many of their commanding generals on their posts would just lock them on post. I think that the military knows enough. They understand what's a lawful order, what's an unlawful order, legal, immoral, unethical orders. And I believe those commanders know what their responsibility is to defend the borders. Yes, we take an oath to, against enemies foreign and domestic, but our citizens by part are not a domestic enemy. They are the citizenry. And I would see the active duty military standing on post. The ones that I would worry about, and let me get to the end of this before people get up in arms, is the National Guard. The National Guard is probably our best asset to save the Second Amendment, because they are in our own communities. They are the ones, just like the police officers, when you say, go take the guns from Johnny down the street, they're going to say, I'm not taking a gun from Johnny. Johnny's a good guy. The problem comes when that National Guard soldier in the state of South Dakota gets mobilized and sent to New Mexico. Mm-hmm. At that point, they're not his neighbors. They're not people he knows. And I can tell you from somebody that's been shipped overseas and deployed overseas, you got no problem fighting against the enemy. One, they're trying to kill you. Two, because I have no idea who they are, and I'm never going to be back to see them ever again. That's why we did it. World War II, Korea and Vietnam. We degraded the images of those people. They were the dirty Huns and the Nips and everything else, and we made them seem like they were inferior. So I went there and killed them. We didn't even consider them people, and we knew we'd never see them again. That's what I worry about, is when you start shifting around those kind of forces. Active duty, though, pretty positive they're going to be locked down on base and say, we're going to let the country figure this out. In the meantime, we'll protect the borders.
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with that at all. I do want to say, from my own personal opinion, we're a long way away from that yet.
Yeah.
We're not, this is not coming next week. This is not coming next month. This is not coming, I don't even think next year. What we need to do, and what my job is here for us to do, is to show the way where we can avoid all this. It would have been nice if we were talking about absolutely President Trump and there is no transition, we're just going to keep rolling and everything's in good shape. That would have been beautiful. That's not the world we live in right now. Right now it's uncertain who's going to be president in January. But even if it's worst case scenario, even if it's Biden-Harris, right now we're looking at Georgia that's going to be having an election at the beginning of January. At the very bare minimum, we're 50-50 in the Senate. If we take just one of those two seats in Georgia, we're 51-50, meaning they cannot pack the Supreme Court, appoint a lot more judges to tilt the court farther left again.
If everybody votes party lines, but we already have that problem with three people that don't know which party they're on when it's time to vote.
But it's not just Republicans that are soft, too. I honestly believe we can take some Democrats and make them soft with enough phone calls from inside their state.
Agreed.
I'm from Massachusetts. I think all the Democrats are soft.
Wow. You know,
I say that jokingly.
That's Charlie Cook riding shotgun with Charlie at gmail.com. I don't know if that's your email address, but you may want to grab it quick.
I got it. Send the hate mail there. I say that in jest. I say that because we have a Republican. I mean, I hate saying this as well. We have a Republican governor that kowtows to everything that our attorney general wants to do, and she's a hard-wing lefty. So yeah. Ugh.
All right. Well,
it's rough. It's tough. You know, the one thing a politician wants to do is be a politician. You know, and that's that means getting elected. That means playing favors, and you can have that letter next to your name. But if they see the tunnel light and narrowing when it's time for re-election, they'll open up their ideas to the other side.
I got to tell you, man, it's with the Republican governor that we have now. It's crazy to talk to people that are Democrats, and they're like, "Oh, we love him." You love him because he's doing everything that you want him to do. He's following what you like. He's kowtowing to the ridiculousness. So,
yeah. Well, we've got about 9 minutes left before we hit the top of the hour. Are there any other topics that either of you wanted to bring up? One that I don't know if we brought up last week or not, and I'm going to just touch on it briefly. I certainly do want to talk about it. Is this week I wrote about a scandal in the Santa Clara County Sheriff's Office in California. Santa Clara is just south of San Francisco. It's the county south of there. It's the county that's got the center of the universe of evil. Apple has its headquarters there.
Got it.
And the sheriff there is in hot water. Has two of her deputies, her undersheriff and one other high-ranking deputy, have been put up on charges. Two of her attorneys have been put up on charges, and 6 other people in the community have been put up on charges over a bribery scheme, $90,000 worth of political donations for 12, count them, 12 concealed carry permits. That's going to burn. I'm going to be surprised if Sheriff Lori Smith makes it all the way through her term.
Is she a Democrat or a Republican, Paul?
She's very much Democrat.
Well, she'll be fine then. She'll be okay.
So here, I did some research on this, and I just had to redo my math. The numbers that I got were $70,000 for 200 iPads, and it was for 4 permits. And that math comes out to $17,500 per permit. But going back and doing $90,000 with 12 permits, that's only $7,500 a permit.
More reasonable.
I thought this was... Yeah, right, it is. And I think it said that usually a permit in California is $200 to $400. So why didn't Apple have their employees get the permits and then reimburse them if that's the path that they wanted to take? But I thought this was interesting as well. Tim Cook came out in 2019 and said that inaction to gun control is, quote, insanity. So it seems like Apple's anti-gun, but when they're pro-gun, they're willing to spend $7,500 on a permit. This is nuts.
Yeah, and that's not, and I know what you mean, Charlie. They're not pro-gun. They're pro, I want a gun, you can't have one. I'm privileged, I'm going to pay for it and get it.
Yeah, the other thing that I saw is political campaigns were 14 times more likely to get someone to give someone a permit than someone that did not contribute to the local campaigns, which is complete Bribery, cronyism, favoritism. I mean, whatever ism you want to put in there, it's a bunch of baloney.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we lost Mike. He froze up, and he may come back here in a second, but we're having major connection issues with him. There he goes. There he's back.
He's back.
All right.
Sorry, that don't know where I left off.
Yeah, no
That's all right.
problem. And I want to take this. We've only got like 5 minutes left in the show, but I want to take this beyond the gun issue and go a little wider with it as well. In that, quite often you would think big business would be pro-Republican because Republicans are supposedly pro-business. If you look at it, it's actually the opposite way around. Big businesses can afford the taxes. They know that if they get these regulations passed, they will be able to afford the taxes. The little guys won't. Therefore, their competition goes away. That's why the Apples, that's why the Googles, that's why the Facebooks are all for getting as much regulation as they can get, because that way there's no competition and they continue to exist.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's completely
This is
nuts
not unique to California. You, Charlie, you go ahead.
No, I was just going to say it's completely ridiculous that somebody can. Again, it goes back to a $200 tax from Joe Biden to have high-cap magazines and semi-automatic firearms. Who can afford this? The rich folks. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, same thing. Does it happen in Southern California? I think.
Oh, you got to be kidding me! Oh no!
No.
Oh no! All right. Well, I think we're just going to go ahead. We're 3 minutes from the end of the show, and I can see his signal struggling to come back, but I don't think it's going to get here. I think we're just going to go ahead.
This is Apple and Zuckerberg. They're after Mike, man. They're after Mike.
There he's back. All right. Mike, well, we've got you back. We're going to go ahead and wrap the show up. I'm going to have you, if you would, in case somebody joined in the middle, tell everybody who you are, where your stuff is at, how they can get in touch.
Go to armsroomradio.com and you can see it there. And if you go there today as opposed to tomorrow, the website's in the process of being changed. It's armsroomradio.com, and always a privilege. Thank you, Paul, for having me on. And Charlie, it's a pleasure sitting next to you to do this.
Very, very cool. All right, Charlie, man, you're up next. Tell everybody where they can find you and how they can get in touch.
All right, so I am Charlie from Writing Shotgun with Charlie. I've got a Facebook page. You can find me at writingshotgunwithcharlie.com. You can find me on YouTube, on Gunstreamer, and on the OpsLens app by looking for Writing Shotgun with Charlie. You can listen to the show in podcast form on Apple Podcast, Spotify, and on iHeartRadio, and I think some other people pick it up from there. And yes, if you want to send me hate mail, writingshotgunwithcharlie@gmail.com. Paul, thank you very much. Mike, it's always good to see you, man. And I can't wait to get you in the car down in Florida. I think I'm coming down for the Florida Carry event in March. So
then we're going to make it happen.
Awesome.
All right. That leaves me, folks. I'm Paul Lathrop. I'm the Deputy Director of New Media for the Second Amendment Foundation. I'm your host here at the Weekly Bullet. Stop by every day during every weekday. We have a new daily bullet coming out every day. Monday through Friday. And also check out this little tiny thing I got called the Polite Society Podcast. Been going for about 9 years, and we seem to be doing okay. You can find all those things by going to saf.org. There's links to everything there. All right, we're going to go ahead and shut it down. Mike, Charlie, thank you very much for doing this with me, guys.
Thank you, guys.
See everybody next week.